Welcome to Season 4, Red Clay Soccer Report, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente, right there. There we go. Red Clay Soccer Report, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente in KP, Georgia. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by. And this is the beginning of the sprint that is the high school soccer season, and we've got it for you right here. Every Wednesday, for those of you that may not know, every Wednesday during the lunch hour, we try to catch up with coaches around the state, and we find out what's going on in their universes, find out about their players and clubs and schedules and things like that. And it's a chance for us to catch up on the sprint that is the season. Every Wednesday during the regular season, we're here at noon for an hour. Then when we get into the playoffs, we're here every day at noon, catching up with as many coaches as humanly possible when it comes to the postseason, getting you ready for the championships and the 3 sites that are there. So we start Season 4 this way. We're going to visit Lake Oconee Academy, catch up with the defending champs in Class AD2. Tyler Mayer, the head coach, set to join us here coming up in just a little bit. The defending champs in 6A, Walton girls. We caught up with Jason Page just before class. Couldn't join us live because he's in class now. They might be watching the show in class now. But Jason got to join us, and we're going to catch up with him and find out what it's like for him as a repeating champ. After him, it is Creek Cup coverage, and we start in Tallulah Falls, catching up with their head coach, Jeremy Stille, and then we catch up with Kelly Bowler at Johns Creek to find out what Creek Cup is all about, because that's going to be on the network the next couple of days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Creek Cup is a part of our coverage. What you do is, if you want to listen, follow along on your favorite device, or if you're in your office and you're stuck, what you do, go to soccerdownhere.net. It's the easiest thing. Soccerdownhere.net is the website with all of our content, everything that we produce for a reading. You go there. Hit the Listen tab. Then when the Listen tab opens up, you'll see this pop up. You'll see this stream pop up when it comes to all of our live in-house talk programming. And then you'll also see SDH 1 and 2 on our Mixler platform. And both of those channels will be up and running with Creek Cup, guaranteed. Jason and Maddie will be anchoring the coverage at Johns Creek. I'll be anchoring the coverage at Northview, and Creek Cup the next couple of days on all of the platforms across the board. But we're going to kind of cover it a little bit here in the second half hour. But first, we have our first head coach visiting for the 2026 season, and we get to catch up with Tyler Mayer and find out what life's like as a champ at LOA. Coach, welcome to Season 4. How are you?
Hey, John, doing great. Can you hear me okay?
You are good, sir, and we
All
believe
right.
in safe. We believe in safe guesting. So it is what you are doing is excellent and excellent. First off, thanks for dropping by. It's always great to catch up with you. I want to go backward before we come forward a little bit. How much time did you give yourself to celebrate after winning the title last year?
Well, I think we spoke the day after, and I'm not gonna lie, it's something that right, once you have it, it's with you forever. And I would be fibbing if I didn't say I watch the clips quite frequently, just to as we should relive that joy, relive that moment and what that experience felt like. And but
in between cells. Let's see when Tyler can join us here. Because, like I said, we believe in safe guesting, and we want to make sure that he's focused on that. And he's calling from, I'm guessing, the Greensboro area. And so when you're out there at I-16, Reynolds Plantation, Greensboro, LOA territory, you're in ups and downs and hills and trees and a whole bunch of things. And so it's always interesting to find out where folks are.
Move on, and we got to find a way to move on now.
Yep, you certainly have to do that. And so you've started this year with a matchup against Morgan County. And what did you learn about yourself? It went north of 80 minutes, and you end up, I think it was in a shootout. It was tied at 3 after 80. What did you learn about yourself?
Well, I tell you, every match I have a word of the match, and last night's word of the match was resilient, and I offer up options for the boys. What does that mean to you? What does that look like for us as a team? And even after the match, I still believe we were a resilient team. It was a heck of a game. I mean, maybe one of the more exciting matches I've seen in that stadium. The crowd was electric on both sides. The students came out. But what I've learned is we've got some work to do. We've got some on-field discipline that we need to iron out. We've got some technical and tactical things we've got to dial in. We're a young team. You can't be the same team when you graduate 6 senior starters.
Hmm.
That's a reset. I believe Morgan graduated quite a handful of seniors as well, but they were athletes, and they moved the ball well. We moved the ball well. It's just soccer's a game of how involved can your team stay, for the duration of the match. And we had some momentary lapses that we got caught off guard, and some ping ponging with the ball in our keeper box that they scored, I think, one or two of their goals out of. But I tell you, the heck of a match. Kudos to Morgan County, and I'm excited where this puts us. And I'll say it publicly, a little disappointed in how we responded to the roughness and toughness of the match. We were unfortunate in having some red cards issued throughout that game, which I'm not proud of. As a coach, and certainly as a school like Lake Oconee Academy, but we'll learn, right? These are learning lessons and life lessons for these boys, and as coaches, we need to figure it out and get everybody dialed in for practice today.
You mentioned losing 6 seniors from the championship team. Who, when someone comes to see LOA for the first time here early in the year, who are some of the folks that are holdovers that are a part of the activity this year that folks will gravitate toward?
Well, certainly the name at the top of the list is the electrifying Leo Inestrosa. He's a playmaker. He's a goal scorer. Defense with Jamison Ewan in the back as well. Jack Kalmanowicz, who his brother flanked him last year.
Oh, this is what happens when you're in between cells. I've got to ask Tyler where he is specifically. It sounded like he was on I-20. I'll ask, but there he comes. All right, so I'm going to ask him when he comes back in.
Yep, sorry, may have cut out there a little bit.
Are you on I-20 right now?
No, but of Reynolds and Greensboro service, but I apologize about that, folks.
No worries, it's all good. Oh, yeah, but like I said, when you're in Greensboro, and I mentioned this, so you're doing hills and valleys and interstates and everything. So
Okay, are
it
you there?
is. I was explaining to folks that when you're in Greensboro, it is hills and valleys and interstates and roads and water and everything.
It is beautiful, but that is also. And folks, I'm handling things good, but let me make sure I can get into a good connection with everybody. But
Okay,
yeah,
so yeah,
John, just
don't move
recapping.
from that spot, Tyler.
Obviously, Inistros is a star-studded strike.
Welcome to show number 1. Oh man! So let's see if Tyler pulls off here. There we go. Okay, so let's see if he's pulled off the road.
All right, I am off the road.
There we go. All right. So you were mentioning Leo Inestrosa and the Band of Renown. Oh, he pulled off the. All right. Let's see if he can hang on here with us. Let's see. Oh, there it went. All right. So he had it and lost it. And so, like I said, it's Greensboro, Georgia, folks.
We're just kind of in and out here, man. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's all good. So don't move from that spot.
I'm staying right
You
here.
mentioned Leo. Who else is there?
Jamison McEwen, our senior captain, starting back. Chris Aru, midfield defender, captain as well. Kalmanovich, a returning junior. And we've got a lot of role players this year, younger underclassmen. Nathan Canales, a starting freshman, marking back for us, who shows some promise. Luke Lawless, a sophomore. Joshua McEwen, after this year, Garrett Griffin, one of our seniors again this year. Happy to have him back in the starting lineup with us. So, we've got some players. Again, it's going to take. I'm excited we went through that trial and tribulation last night, because I think we are where we are, and what we have to work on. So, we kind of had that pivotal point last year against GMC where we lost in PKs and then didn't lose a game after that. I don't know if this is that case, but that saying, sometimes you win more from losing. I never enjoy losing, but it almost felt like we needed to get knocked a little bit last night to know that we've got some work to do. So we'll get back at it today. And, we're in Westminster of Augusta tomorrow, up against a real tall challenge there. And again, sadly, without two of our starters, because of that, incident last night.
You mentioned GMC. For the record, for those on the calendar, you got it at home this year, and it is on March 17th. So folks can circle their calendars right now.
That's right.
For GMC and for LOA. How difficult is it to have a program in Class A Division II, considering you look at your schedule and you look at the region that they've put you in, and I know you go into power rankings as a part of this as well, but you've had to piece together a schedule that's got Lincoln County, Towns, and that is a pack a lunch, a dinner, a midnight snack, and a hard hat and a cot trip. I mean, when you got that one squared away. It's Washington Wilkes. It's Eatonton with Putnam County. North Oconee is another stout program. And how hard is it to piece a schedule together in Class AD2?
Well, it is a challenge, and again, when you come off a season like we did, there was no shortage of non-region schools that wanted to play us. So, when you have the Morgans and the Westminster of Augusta and Hart and Evans again and North Oconee again, there's that proverbial target on our back. And we don't have a big region, and now it's about that loss, didn't count for the region. So now we've got to dig our heels in, dig our boots into the ground, and make sure we take care of business within the region. But yeah, it becomes a challenge. But I'd say almost more so making sure, from a player development standpoint, making sure we get the appropriate amount of matches for our JV squad. That's where we see the challenge with these smaller schools not able to field JV teams.
Last question for you, and I know that you're kind of dancing around trying to get everything done so you can get to practice in a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
We have this season, we have what we call the Georgia Call-Up. And it is the equivalent of when I'm doing the high school football stuff over at Georgia Public. It's our equivalent here at SDH of Make That Kid an Offer, where it's a student athlete that either isn't getting the quality of looks you think they deserve or isn't getting any looks at all, and is one of those hidden gems in the state that college coaches will not be sorry when they look at that individual. Is there anyone on your roster so far that you can think of this year that would fit that bill for a senior looking to get to the next level that isn't getting the looks that they deserve?
Well, I tell you, when you talk about the seniors, I'm proud of all these boys, because now, being in the program a few years, these seniors were freshmen when I was coming into Lake Oconee Academy. But Garrett Griffin obviously is a talented player. But from a senior standpoint, Jamison McEwen is kind of that silent assassin marking back. He's a solid player, plays club ball. If he wants to play at the next level, whichever level that is, I believe he has the ability to do too. He's a great student. He's great in the community. So Jamison McEwen right now would be my guy.
And I know that list obviously can expand as the season goes along, but
That's right.
we are bookmarking Mr. McEwen as we go here. Thank you
bet.
for pulling off to the side of the road in the ups and
Absolutely.
downs that are in Greensboro. Be safe getting to practice and getting everything done. Thanks for thanks for batting leadoff here on season 4. We really appreciate your time, Coach, and we'll be obviously keeping an eye on LOA this year. Thanks for dropping by.
You bet. Thanks, John. God bless you. Thanks, guys.
There we go.
Bye-bye.
Tyler Mayer, the head coach of the reigning defending Class A D2 boys program at LOA. So Lake Oconee Academy. Tyler Mayer, guest number 1. So let's get you into guest number 2. And for this one, we go to Walton and catching up with folks between classes and just before he got into class. Like I said, he could be in class right now still. Don't know how long the class schedules are, but I had him for like a 10-minute window. And so we caught up with Jason Page for the reigning defending undisputed girls champion 6A to find out what's going on with Walton as they're getting ready for 26. Here's our conversation before he had to head to class. So how long did you give yourself to celebrate after the end of last season?
I guess your first one, you've got to take it in and enjoy it for a little while. But I mean, our thing this year has been once we did a ring ceremony, and once we did that, we're like, that's it. Now we move on and we get to work. The ring ceremony was at one of the football games, and then after that, we were like, it's time to move forward and get back to work trying to defend the title.
When you think about that group, obviously the seniors that have now graduated and gone on, and then everyone who is now a class older, when you look back at that particular team, what sticks out in your mind about the journey from last year?
It was actually a 4-year journey because I had a group of freshmen that came in my first year here that were, right off the bat gave me the impression that they were a special group. And they had stuck with the program and given a lot. Obviously, that involves the captains, but there were many more seniors that were involved in that group. Their commitment to the program, their work effort, their companionship. The fact that they got along and that they were willing to work hard for each other. There was an awful lot with that team. That team was very, very talented, but there was an awful lot about them that was just really, really grit and willing to grind to make sure that they got to that final game. And then when they got there, going into penalties, they were willing to finish it off at that moment. So that was a really just that entire senior class was a special group of kids that sometimes coaches, we talk about that it factor, and they had it. So, and now we're trying to identify. I think we have it now. We're trying to identify who it is and what's going to happen. How we're going to navigate this season. We'll find out on Friday how we're going to navigate this season. But yeah.
How hard is it to schedule non-region opponents because of what you're building there at Walton? You come up with the same problems in American football. Do you have the same problems when it comes to the FUTBOL?
Right. So we have several schools that like to reach out to us and play us, and we like to play them. Hopefully that continues next year when they go to the whole ranking system. There's been some questions as to will we be able to schedule those games. Hopefully we can. We have some good relationships in Cobb County. Obviously, we have a good relationship with some teams in Gwinnett, Buford being one. So we have Brookwood coming out to us this year. There are a lot of coaches at some of these programs that understand the importance of playing these matches. So it's good for us. We played Hillgrove last night. We have a good relationship with them, and both games are good games for both teams, the men's and women's team. But those matches, we like to schedule them. They're important. We'll play Harrison in a few weeks. We play Pope in a few weeks, Lassiter. Hopefully that continues into the upcoming years.
What did you learn about yourself from the 3-0 win against Hillgrove?
About myself or about the team?
Yes.
Okay. Good answer. We're deep. We've got a very, very talented team. We can move the ball very well. I think that our depth this year is probably greater than it was last year. And I think for myself, it's going to be important that I give players opportunities to prove themselves on the field. And obviously that's going to have to be kind of a rotating thing with how deep we are. We have an awful lot of players that deserve some time last night and didn't get it. And I'm trying to delegate it as well as I can. The thing that I have found out is I've got quite a lot of players that we've got to manage as a coaching team and hopefully give them the opportunities to prove themselves. So we had some players definitely prove themselves last night, and there's going to be some other players that are going to get a chance on Friday.
How do you, I guess, either delineate or juggle those chainsaws of, I need to get players minutes to figure out who we are early in the year. Competition that I have is top notch and it's non-region. And I hope that regardless of the result, people don't look at it at face value and they look at it as a non-region matchup against a powerful opponent, and they don't kill us in the ratings or in the rankings. The PSR next year with the power rankings, I'm sure would be better in that situation. But how do you juggle that back and forth?
So for this year, I'm just worried about us. It's I'm not worried about the rankings. The rankings don't mean a whole lot. Just try to get first in our region. I've been working on this since before tryouts. We know the talent that comes in or there's going to come in. We always get some surprises. We always have some players that show better than we kind of expected. They've improved at their club. And we plan way ahead against in our scrimmage in McIntosh. We literally did a line change. We had 11 players on and took 11 players off. We get to see how they react, how they respond, how they come in on the game. I'm planning for games. My responsibility is to plan for the entire season. The players' responsibility is to prepare for the next match. So I try to take as much off their plate as I can. Our motto is distractions equals lost opportunities. So I take the distractions, I manage those. The players understand. We've built the what's the word? We've built the what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry. The culture. There we go. I found it. We built the culture where the players understand that how deep we are and that they are going to have to give up some time so to other players, because we're gonna have matches this year where we're missing 6, 7, 8 players because they're off at a club event. That is my responsibility to manage that as a coach and my other coach, rest of my coaching staff. That's our responsibility to manage that, and that means that we're going to have to see players in matches leading up to those moments. They're going to have to get an opportunity to start. They're going to have to come in off the bench in situations that they may not normally. For example, when we get to the state championship, it might be a completely different scenario. We have tried to build into the culture here at Walton High School that we are a family, and that means that sometimes we sacrifice for the others for the benefit of the program. I'm not saying it's easy. This is not an easy thing to manage. It's why I always talk about leadership. Leadership is big here. We actually do a course for the captains. They come in the mornings and we meet, and there are lessons that they have to do because, very few people are born to lead. People have to learn how to do it. And if we're going to depend on those players, then they have to understand what it means, what it looks like, what their actions should be, and what their actual leadership style is. So that's something that I kind of stole from another high school coach and kind of turned it into my own. But it's very, very important at a place like Walton because of how much we have going on with these athletes. So.
Now you've opened a door that would take a much longer conversation that you and I are going to have. So I'm going to put a bookmark in that leadership thing.
Yeah, sure.
Who are some of the leaders that have shown earlier, whether it's through the early workouts and then the preseason? Who are some of the leaders?
We have our 4 captains. We've got Amber, Morgan, Nicole, and MK. So we have our 4 captains that are elected before the season even starts. But then we definitely have some young players. Brooklyn who's a sophomore. She was one of the ones that made the PK last year. She has really, really flourished so far. She's kind of shown a lot of energy. some of our other seniors are showing well. We understand that leadership doesn't necessarily have to have an armband. That is the way that you set the example with how you go. And we're young. It's not linear. It's not going to, we're doing this, we're going up and down. But we definitely see some other players that have shown some leadership qualities within the team.
Buford coming up on Friday night at 7 o'clock. When it comes to coming out of the Hillgrove game, getting ready for Buford, are you focusing on yourself? Do you watch film? Is there a balance this early, even though the game is non-region and it's a big opponent? How do you handle this one?
I've watched film on us. We have certain things that we want to make sure that we correct as we go. I think we're in a good place so far. I think we're kind of where we want to be, maybe even a little ahead, but right now, I mean, honestly, this is the first year where I have felt like we're just kind of tweaking some things. There are going to be some players that won't be here for that match. So that gives other players, this is what I was talking about earlier, gives other players opportunities. We're going to see who can handle those pressure moments. All of this stuff goes into as data collection for when we get to the playoffs or later, deeper in the season. Both of these teams, us and Buford, I'd be really surprised if we look the same when we get to the playoffs. We're probably going to be very, very different. But we expect Buford to be a solid competitor. I think that's why we put this on the schedule, both of us. We know that it's a good early test. So
I'm looking forward to it on Friday night, and it's going to be a great one. Thanks for dropping by and parachuting in. I know that you're in between classes and lunch and all the important things that go on during the day.
Sir.
Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care.
Jason Page, girls head coach at Walton. And so, he was heading to class. He's out the door. And so he was heading to class, and we caught up literally when the morning show ended. And I had sent him a note. I said, okay, the second that the morning show is over, I'm going to hop on to this, and then that way we can record your thing. I'll keep you for 10 minutes. Then you can get to class. Supposed to be over at 10 minutes, and it was like 10 and a half. So if the principal at Walton needs a letter from me having Coach Page late to class for an hour ago, then I'll be more than happy to send it. I don't quite have letterhead, but I can shoot him an email to sit there and say, okay, hey, I apologize. Coach Page was late for class because I was trying to cram in an interview, and we got it in a little overtime, a little added time for that one, but it's great to catch up with him as well and find out what the latest is at Walton. All right, so from here on, we get to find out what's going on at Creek Cup, and coming up in just a couple of minutes, we get to find out what the story is up at Tallulah Falls. And Jeremy Stille, the head boys coach, Tallulah Falls is going to be a part of Creek Cup. This is the interesting part of Creek Cup where, yes, you do have those Atlanta area teams that are attached, but Lee County is in it, and Carrollton is in it, and Gilmer is in it. And we've seen what Coach Johnston has been trying to build up there in Ellijay over the last couple of years. So him being added to this mix, not necessarily a surprise. So you're seeing a couple of wild cards that are being added here. And Islands coming up from the coast is another one of those wild cards. And it's interesting to see who Johns Creek and the Creek Cup are getting to be a part of these things now. Kelly Bowler coming up in about 15 minutes. But it's interesting to find out. And I want to find out how literally Tallulah Falls became a part of this process. Tallulah Falls is in Creek Cup this year. And I mean, this is not something that is, one of those trips that's an easy trip. But when it comes to playoffs and you anticipate deep runs in playoffs, what you want to do is you want to challenge yourself in non-region play. And so this is one of those opportunities for Jeremy Stille and the boys team at Tallulah Falls to hop in and find out about it. So, we'll catch up with Kelly Bowler coming up in about 15 minutes. And so Kelly will bring us home. Kelly will bring us home in 15 minutes. He's like the anchor leg in the 4x4. He's going to bring us home in 15, and we'll get all of the stuff talking about Creek Cup and all of that coming up. But Jeremy Stille dropping by coming up here in just a second, so we'll get the Tallulah Falls perspective. and find out what it's like for them. Because when the grid came out, I was like, wow, there are some wild cards in here, and it's fun to get those kinds of challenges. And so now we go and find out about the light in the mountains and find out what's going on with Jeremy and talk about, look at you styling and profiling. Look at that, Jeremy. Nicely done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So the day job's academic dean. So
Oh yeah, I was going to ask, how many hours in the day do you need to balance being the upper school academic dean, a varsity boys coach? I mean, this is a lot on the business card, man.
yeah, it is. I'm super appreciative. Dr. PV gave me the opportunity. It's our head and president, and he gave me the opportunity a couple of years ago to move into administration, and it's something that I've always wanted to do when I started teaching. So I love it. It is a busy schedule, a lot to do, especially when soccer season rolls around, starting in January. So it's a lot of hours in, but it's good to see the guys and help them grow, help them learn, and build relationships with them outside of the academic dean role, because that tends to be a fairly scary thing.
Yes, I will grant you that one. For those that might know their bit of history, Tallulah Falls had spent time in the GHSA. Now you're GIAA, and you are bringing home banners in the GIAA. For someone who hasn't seen GIAA action, how would you characterize what folks get to see when they walk in the door?
So there's not many differences between GIA and GHSA. I would say like one of the big positives for us as an independent school is having a voice in the athletic association. With so few schools compared to GHSA, we really do have an open table discussion with GIA and the heads of the schools and making decisions and seeing how the calendar fits, competition fits. So it's really beneficial. In that regard, I would say that you're still getting your region play, and many of the GIA schools still play GHSA schools for out of region play. Of course, us in this tournament, that's included. So you're not going to see much difference as far as the level of play. I feel like coming from GHSA in my past experiences, you've got your lower level teams, and then you've got your mid-level teams that are competing every year, and then of course you've got your upper echelon perennials that are just continuously fighting for those state championships.
19-2 last year, 12-0 first in the region classification as it's listed. You only gave up 17 goals last year. So if my math is correct, that's slightly less. That's like a 0.92 goals against, if my math is there. And I haven't had lunch yet, so my math might be a little off. And getting the, getting to, St. Anne Pacelli in the last game of the year. When you look at the lessons from last year, bringing them forward to 26, what were some of the lessons that you're bringing with you this time around?
So we had a large group of seniors. We had about 14 seniors last year that left us after they graduated, and so we're a much smaller class, bringing less experience into games. We've got a lot more kids that are playing club soccer playing for us this year, but I would say one of the biggest lessons is the camaraderie and the togetherness. Our group has gelled really well together, considering that this is the first time with my time at the program where we've had a major rebuild, a lot of different faces coming in and young faces coming in, and they've gelled together really well. And I would say that's always something that I'm working at as a coach is how do we get these guys together? To me, the family unit idea is a big thing. I remember back to my playing days and still talking to the guys that I played with in college and having close relationships with them from just memories of our time together. It's really a family unit. You spend so much time together. And so getting that camaraderie is a big deal to me.
And
focal point.
And you get to do that on the road. How did the Creek Cup thing come to pass? Because before you came on, I was talking about the non-Atlanta area schools, the atypical, the wild cards coming in, and it's like Islands and Lee County and Gilmer and you guys. How did this happen?
So I got an email probably in the spring last year from Coach Bowler just asking if we would be interested. So I talked it over with the guys that were coming back that would be captains in the program this year, and they were super interested. A couple of them play down at Atlanta Fire and actually know a good bit of players from Johns Creek and Northview. and we're really excited at the opportunity. It's a little more difficult with the ranking system now in GHSA that to get those games. I heard you mention that earlier, to get those non-region opponents, and it's I would say difficult for us as a GIAA school to always get the GHSA opponents in. And so I saw this as an opportunity to kind of put in some GHSA teams. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of selfish. Northview's my alma mater, so being able to go back to the school that I played for in high school when the school first started. So that's an interesting dynamic for me.
So have there been conversations with some of your old teammates when they saw this matchup come up on the board, and classmates and things?
No.
Oh, I just have this vision of some of your old classmates coming on and being in the stands for this one, which is set for Friday the 13th. It's the nightcap. I just have this vision of a lot of your old classmates wearing jackets and being in the stands and sitting there wearing their end jackets, and they're going after you as the head coach.
Yeah, I've still got my letter jacket in my closet at my parents' house. So I haven't been back to Northview in a while. My parents live really close in Johns Creek, so I'm excited to go back and see the school. I was there for the first 4-year graduating class. I graduated in 2006, so driven by it a ton when I visit my parents with my family. So I'm actually excited to go back and just see what the school is now.
When this will be your second match of the season. You played Rabun, traditional, I think, starter. It's kind of like your season kickoff, having activity with Rabun County.
Mm-hmm.
With the Rabun match and with the Creek Cup opportunity this weekend, what are you looking for in non-region and in these early season matchups that you can carry with you later on in the year when you're trying to chase after a title?
Yeah, so of course Rabun is a good local rival for us. I mean, it's a fun game for us to have. We have some Rabun kids at our school because we're right on the Habersham-Rabun line, and so getting to play them is good. There's a good connection there. And then I always try and schedule our non-region games at the beginning of the season, kind of figuring out where our team is, how we play, and best positions for our players. And so the Creek Cup for us is a great opportunity to play some high-level talented teams, some competitive teams, larger teams, and get an idea of where we sit. And then right after that, we go into a week long where we play 2 GIA non-region opponents that are usually competing for a state run as well. So it's a good combination for us to kind of hit these GHSA teams early. And I'm excited about the opportunity to play Islands or Georgia Military as well as Northview on Friday, and then go into our GIA non-region.
The upper school academic dean / varsity boys soccer coach, Jeremy Stille from Tallulah Falls, hanging out with us. Kelly Bowler from Johns Creek coming up in a couple of minutes. And, when you are juggling all of these, you mentioned the graduation and the folks coming through. For folks who are going to be wandering in the door on Friday night, who are some of the folks that they will instantly gravitate toward when it comes to how you're wanting to do things on the field?
So specifically players-wise, we've got 2 junior captains, Tyson Hall and Cale Borchers, that are phenomenal players. I mentioned them earlier. They play for Atlanta Fire, and they just run midfield for us. And really, Cale can play anywhere on the field, as well as Tyson. They're phenomenal, dynamic players, great on the ball, great knowledge of the game through their training with their club. And then also we have a senior captain, Petar Gromiko, one of our Serbian boarding students with us, and he is a passionate character, I think is the best way. He's a hard worker. He's the guy that's going to go into a tackle and then get up and yell like he just won the World Cup. Like, it's just such a big deal for him to play and be engaged, and it's a wonderful gravitational movement for the team to kind of get behind him, because he will rally the team behind him and carry him on their back. So
8:00 Friday night, Tallulah Falls, and the head coach for Tallulah Falls goes back to his alma with Northview, 1-0 versus 0-2. Last question for you. This year we are starting what we call the Georgia Call-Up, and it's kind of tied to what I do when I'm wearing my American football hat with Georgia Public Broadcasting. We have a feature that we call Make That Kid an Offer, and it is one of those ideas where if there is a student athlete that for whatever reason isn't getting the looks you think they deserve or not getting looks, period, and some coach somewhere is going to sit there and look at an athlete and go, ooh, I like that. And it'll fit what they're looking for. Is there anyone on your roster right now that you can think of that's a senior that would fit in that Georgia call-up idea for you?
To me, it would be Patar. I mean, you've got a kid that came to us as a junior mid-year from Serbia that was a basketball player, played basketball, and then came over for the soccer program, played JV a couple games, and the JV coach and I, David Jimenez, spoke, and it was like, this kid needs to be playing varsity, even though his touch isn't there yet. Like, his passion, his desire to play, his want to leave everything on the field. He's a character that is not necessarily going to be the most refined technically, but you want him on your team. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. Like, you want this kid on your team because he's going to bring that much positive attitude, that much work ethic, that much leadership in your program. Patar's that kid.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing him and calling the Tallulah Falls action here on the network on Friday and on the weekend. I cannot thank you enough to take time out during your lunch hour as the dean/coach to come in and talk about the coach side of things. Just be safe coming down from Tallulah Falls, and we will be seeing you this weekend. Great to catch up with you, and thanks for dropping by the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
There goes to Jeremy Stille. He is the upper school dean and the boys coach. Now we bring in Kelly Bowler from Johns Creek, and he's batting cleanup here on the show. Did you know? Did you know, Kelly, that that Jeremy was a Northview alum? I did not.
I had no idea, but that adds a nice little element to Friday night's game. I had no idea. I wish I could go over to that game now because I'm playing at the same time at Johns Creek. So I'm like, oh man, I wish I could go see that. That'd be kind of intense. I'm sure he's very motivated to go out there and sting his old high school. So that'll be fun.
That was cool to find
I'm
that.
also not as dressed. I feel very like unprofessional compared to Coach Stille.
Well, but I mean, he's like a dean, Kelly. I mean, he's got a style and profile because he's got to wear his dean clothes until 2:30. Then he can change into stuff like you and I wear.
Yeah.
I want to get into the dynamics of piecing this tournament together. Yeah. And first and foremost, we at SDH can't be more thankful and grateful that we get to be able to share these stories with this tournament that is kind of like one of the massive kickoffs of the high school soccer season. When it comes to piecing this together, do you give yourself until like next Tuesday to sit there and catch your breath before you're starting to plan for 27? What's the timetable here?
So 2027 is almost full already. So we already have 15 of the 16 slots filled.
Wow.
For the boys. So it's growing. So we only have 12 boys teams this year, but next year I'm going to have another boys bracket.
Okay.
I'm just looking for one more team to jump in and take that spot. And I have several teams interested.
Okay.
And then I have 10 girls teams already. And this year I only had 4, right? It was really hard to get the girls teams to respond, want to be in it, et cetera. But now with the PSR and everything else coming together, people are having a hard time already, coming up with the concept of how they're going to find games, because a lot of the really good teams are going to have a hard time getting anybody to play them outside of the other really good teams. But then you get hurt if you lose those games, right? The PSR is kind of like this formula where we don't understand what's really going to come out of it. We just have 1 and 3A to really look at this past year. Sorry about the bell.
You're in a school, Kelly.
Yeah. But we just have 1 and 3A to kind of look at from last year. And, while I think this is designed more for football than it is the rest of the other sports, which is, not being critical, but it's typically what GHSA is looking at. That's their money sport, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard to come up with a formula where you're like, oh, how am I going to help my team versus how am I going to hurt my team? Like, is playing a really challenging schedule going to, bite me? Is it going to help me? Like, you just, nobody really knows. So the concern is just more finding games, because we feel like teams might be, scared to play tougher schedules, et cetera. So when I put this together, I start looking through, and I have to base it on, so I'm, filling the 2027 spots right now. So I have to base it on how they did last year.
Yeah.
So, and you look at the teams that are coming in now, like, Dunwoody had been a perennial playoff team, and then they had kind of a down season last year, right? But I didn't know that going in. But I know Coach DeRue, that will not last, right? Dunwoody is a soccer hotbed. It's right there by Concord Central. They get players all the time. So, I have to base it on last year. But, we were talking to Coach Stille about how did this come about? I send emails and I typically start with I work my way from the top down, and Coach Stille's program, he's always at the top. Even when he was in GHSA, in single A, his team would go 20-0, 22-1, just crazy records. And now that he's in GIAA, he's doing the same thing. So, and so I was like, you want to come down here and challenge yourself? And he was like, absolutely. And I didn't know the Northview Apple was there too, for him that's kind of cool. And then, the rest of the teams, Lee County almost always makes the playoffs out of their region down there. It really worked out because last year they had one of their best seasons ever. They were 12-4, 8-2 in region. I knew that they compete oftentimes against Atlanta area schools and that they do pretty well when they play Atlanta area schools. A couple of years ago when North Atlanta knocked us out of the Elite Eight, 2 rounds before that, Lee County had come up here to North Atlanta, who are the region champions, and taken them with a 0-0 draw all the way to PKs and lost to them in PKs. So I'm like, they're not, they don't back down from the challenge of playing Metro Atlanta teams. And I know Islands does the same thing. That's part of the reason I emailed Islands. I've played Islands down there before, Coach Brantley. And last year he came up to the North Georgia Showcase. And so I saw him come up for that. I'm like, hey, do you want to come up for this tournament? It's not a showcase. It's an actual tournament. You're playing for a trophy. The kids will be excited, that kind of stuff. So a lot of these coaches are jumping on the opportunity for A, for PSR, B, for scheduling, and C, because it's something fun. You get to play for something, and these non-regional, we played Oconee County last night, and Oconee County was the 3A state runner-up last year. Mm-hmm. Exceptional team. But it's hard to get your kids to it's a non-region game. And we only have 6 region games. So, how do you keep getting them motivated for non-region games? Well, here's 2 non-region games where you can really get them pumped up and motivated. I don't know if you were calling the Walton North Atlanta final last year, but at the Creek Cup. But neither of those teams, their benches never sat down the entire game. They were up, screaming, yelling, hollering. You don't see that in non-region games. But because it was the final of the Creek Cup, they were in it. They were after it. It was one of the best games of soccer I've seen in a long time. So,
and I will probably raise my hand and Jason's hand in the collective. It's like, hey, if you're looking for dudes, we know off the top of our head some of those the wild cards that I'm referring to them as. I mean, the fact that you got GMC in here, GMC Prep, that's big, right. And it gives. There are a lot of these folks that have these programs outside, like you mentioned Lee County, you mentioned Islands, Tallulah Falls, GMC Prep, what Bobby Jaworski has been able to do. And now you've got Coach Jeanette, who's taken over for Bobby. You've got Gilmer, who is building the program there with Coach Johnston that gets to come over and be a part of this. Those wild cards that from our looking around, hey, man, you're looking for wild cards? Jason and I could probably sit there. We could put you on at a table, and we could sit there and say, okay, what are you hunting for? Yeah. And I think there's some great stories around that are looking to take that next step. And that's why I really like this tournament for being what it is, where you're mixing the folks in the Atlanta area and the folks outside aren't afraid to sit there and go, yeah, I think I'll come up or I think I'll drop down and come and visit and see what this means for me in a non-region environment.
Yeah, and I've coached with Bobby Jaworski at the GACA All-Star game 3 of the past 4 summers, and he's never afraid to play anybody, right? And so when I asked him, he was all about it. Now he's since taken a step aside and just focused on their junior college team, but he put him in it, and Jeanette didn't want to take him out. He wanted to stay committed to it, and I'm like, absolutely, man, you're welcome to stay in. And already with next year's team, same thing. I've got Richmond Hill is already committed to coming. They've been a power down there in the Savannah area.
Yeah,
Islands is coming back again next year. So those schools are the fun ones. Like we play, and this is no offense, I play Chattahoochee every year. They're right here, and they're in the tournament this year, which is exciting, and obviously it creates more of a Johns Creek Cup, right? Because we have Northview, Johns Creek, and Hooch, which are all in the Johns Creek city limits, in the tournament. But it's fun to get these teams. that you don't play very often. That's why I take my team to Jekyll every year. Like we go down to Jekyll to play different teams. I don't want to play the same teams all the time. To me, that gets, monotonous and boring. And like, South Forsyth's 10 minutes away. I can play them every year. We're playing them this year, but I don't need to play them every single year. Like let's play somebody new. Let's bounce around and play different teams. And that's fun. We're going down to Jekyll this year and we're playing Edmond North from Oklahoma City, in the Jekyll tournament. And they're kind of a power in the Oklahoma area. So that's going to be fun. And those are the games that I find kind of exciting. The Gilmer one, I've been talking to Coach Johnstone for a couple of years now. And that program is really on the rise. A lot of people moving out to the LJ area. That program's on the rise. They just turf their field and it looks beautiful. They've got one of the best backdrops around with the mountains all around them.
Yep.
And so I was like, come jump into this tournament. Your program's on the rise. And he was all about it, and he signed up, jumped in. And none of these coaches, like I make the schedule, send out the bracket, and sometimes you're expecting the coaches to come back and be like, oh, I don't like that matchup. Nobody says a word. They all are like, yeah, I signed up for this. Put me in whatever bracket. I didn't hear the complaint from Stille when he was put against a 4A school, like they want that challenge. That's why they're signing up. That's why they're coming into the tournament. So
yeah, and it's going to be fun to see everything go Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And like I said, a lot of folks always kind of wonder how the meal is made, and that's why I wanted to kind of touch base with you about all the phone calls and the stuff that you do to make this, you and everybody there at Johns Creek, happen.
I have a bracket up on my board in my class. I have 2 boards, and on one of my whiteboards is a bracket for next year's already. And the kids are like, what is this? And I'm like, that's 2027s. I'm working on placing all the teams and finding where my gap is.
Hey, you seniors, you don't have to worry about this one.
Yeah. And I have to like, the out of town teams, I have to put on the Friday night games, So Greenbrier is coming back next year. They're not in it this year, but they're coming back, boys and girls. And so I'm like, all right, they've got to be in the Friday night bracket. So because I don't want them, they don't want to come here Thursday and pay for 2 hotels and have an off day in there. So it's a whole puzzle that I have to put together, and it takes a little bit of time. And obviously the coaches want to know who they're going to be playing against, so they don't accidentally schedule them in the non-region and that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So you opened up another door for me when it comes to stuff that's not Creek Cup related. When is the Jekyll tournament?
The Jekyll tournament is always the second weekend of March.
Okay.
And we've been going, I think this is my 9th straight year taking the boys down there.
Okay.
It's just more team building than it is anything. It's in the middle of our season. The kids have been working hard. We normally have just started region play. Stress levels are high. School is getting kind of monotonous. They're getting to that third, the end of the third quarter kind of. And so it's just fun. We go down there, we spend 4 days on the beach. We stay in the, like a hotel that's right there on the beach. And so they get some downtime, some R&R, but they also play 2 games while they're down there, one on the island and one in Brunswick. So
very cool. When it comes to putting a tournament like this together, and this is the elbow grease question, how many moving parts are there?
So many.
And when it comes to how much sleep you're not getting to make sure that all of the stuff below the water line gets done, because a lot of folks, and I talk to folks about, this is the analogy I use for live television. I said that I asked somebody, do they have a dog? And they'll sit there and they'll go, yeah, I've got a dog. So I'll go, all right, you take the dog to the pond or the lake or whatever. You take him, you take that stick, you throw it into the water. Dog goes to get the stick and tries to bring it back to shore. What do you see above the water line with the dog? You see the dog with the stick in its teeth, and it's just kind of huffing and puffing and doing its thing and swimming back to shore. Yeah. Exactly. What do you see below? What's going on below the water line?
Oh man,
all of this.
Yes,
and that's why I wanted to ask about all of this to make Creek Cup happen.
So I used to work with Coach Meenan, who's a legendary coach in the Atlanta area. Won multiple state titles at Chattahoochee. Now he's at Milton, right? Yep. And I told him I was doing the Creek Cup, and I remember him looking at me and going, "Why?" Because when I used to work for him, we used to do this. We used to co-host a tournament with Brookwood. It was like the Adidas Cup or something like that, and it was just a ton of work, and they just gave up doing it because it was so much work and so many moving parts. I have a committee that meets most of the time once a month, but a lot of times, like moving up towards the tournament, we've been meeting about twice a month of parents that are behind this. We've got a website, that we've popped up there. We're populating that. I've sent probably 10 emails to the coaches in the last week. I'm sure they're getting tired of hearing them from me. Like today, I had to email them and be like, my trainers asked you to bring your own tape. It's just little things like that just constantly are adding up. And then it's a lot. And we've got food trucks coming. I've already got 5 college coaches committed to coming to scout the players. So it's like, it's constant, and I'm trying to make it a bigger deal. Like I want it to be even bigger. I don't want to just settle for what it is. That's why we're hopefully going to grow it by another bracket of boys teams next year, 2 more brackets of girls teams next year. I want this to be a destination tournament where people want to play in it and like they're fighting over it. And that's how I ended up with, coming up with the idea of having a 16 boys teams in it, because I had more than 12 sign up. So I was like, I'm going to have to make a whole nother, bracket. And I don't want to tell anybody no. So I'll just make it work. We'll play 4, 6, and 8 games or something like that, So there's a ton of work that goes into it. I can't thank many of my parents enough. My booster club president, Mrs. Barrett, I've coached 2 of her children. She's been my booster club president now for 7 years. This is her last year as my booster club president. And she is, there's going to be some tears at the end of the season for her and I. But I came to my booster club and to her with the idea. I said, I want to start a tournament, and I want it to be the biggest tournament Atlanta has seen since back when the Adidas Cup was running, which was 20 years ago. And she said, let's do it. It puts Johns Creek at the front and center. I contacted Northview. Coach Morgan over at Northview has been exceptional about, helping out and like lending his facilities and like being a part of Creek Cup, and so it's been a great thing. It's been a lot of work. I won't sleep a lot over the next 3 days. Last night I finished coaching our game, and I was like, oh boy, that was light work compared to what's about to happen. So today's my one window here where I can't do anything to set up because we've got lacrosse games in the stadium tonight. So I can't do anything, but tomorrow is going to be a very busy day. Friday is going to be a busy day, and Saturday is going to be insane. So
what have you learned about yourself in the wins over Denmark and Oconee County?
I've learned, so I knew we were pretty good going into the season. Probably I've learned that we were pretty good. So this is one of the better teams that I have had on paper. I keep warning the kids that being good on paper doesn't matter. But in the Denmark game, they were definitely very motivated. Denmark is a very good team, loaded with ECNL and ECRL players at every position. And we played really, really well. And so we have been able to learn quite a bit about our team, learn a little bit about our rotation, and we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited at Johns Creek about this upcoming season for 2026. So.
And you got Lee County Friday the 13th at 8:00, and that is your first matchup in Creek Cup. I can't thank you enough for dropping by. I didn't want you to get in trouble with your principal about class or anything.
Good, man. You're good.
And make sure that everything was good. We'll be seeing you a lot Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Maddie and Jason are going to anchor the coverage over there. I'll be anchoring the coverage at Northview, and we'll come and cross over and visit and all the other things. If it's okay, can we do this again next week, Wednesday, to do like a bit of a follow-up and a wrap-up and kind of a post-mortem for the whole thing?
Yeah, if I'm still breathing at that point, absolutely. Yeah.
Good deal. So then we'll do same time next week.
All right. And I wanted to say thank you guys for everything that you do. And, if you don't mind, Silverbacks Park is our big sponsor of this. They've got a rental facility. They've got all the adult leagues and everything else. And obviously, Silverbacks Park is part of Atlanta soccer history, right? Like it's a place that was there long before Atlanta United, et cetera. So, which is Atlanta United's been great, but they were here long before that, and they jumped in and are a big sponsor this year. And we want to thank them very, very much. So, and thank you guys for everything that you do. You guys broadcast our games all the time. You come to Creek Cup every year. I love this network and what you guys do for soccer in the Southeast. So,
and can't thank you enough. And thanks for the kind words. And we will be catching up with you as we go. When's your next class?
I've got 45 minutes now, so I get a little break.
Go get lunch. We'll catch up with you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Be good, Kelly. All right, that's Kelly Bowler. He's head coach for the boys' side at Johns Creek. and Jeremy Stille, the upper school dean, for what's going on with everything at Tallulah Falls. So it's great to catch up with them. That's the first go-around of Red Clay, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. We'll see you at Creek Cup. We'll see you at 9:05 tomorrow morning. Another go-around of SDH. Peace out. We're done.